stuff a listen. Expect the Spanish Inquisition. It's head first only television.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello to Array of Emotions and Ryako Music who have tuned in. How's it going, says Mel. It's going okay. This will not be a 3-hour show this week. Yeah, I had a rough night yesterday. My watch, which tracks how well I sleep, was going, what were you thinking? Going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, but we'll come to that in a minute. Good evening. I'm doing okay. I hope you are too. I know you guys in Belgium have been clobbered with, what is it, no more than 4 people in a gathering now? So lockdown really biting hard. Our government's just given up. I mean, we have about 3 times as many cases now as we did when they declared lockdown. But, you know, who knows? We soldier on. I chickened out of going to the supermarket today. After last night's sleep, I just couldn't face going and buying food. So I'm living out of the freezer at the moment. But I will go shopping tomorrow and stock up. So that's the level of excitement that gets provided on Head First Only television, folks. Me talking about going shopping. Yes, indeed. I have actually been making music, but I've been researching the terms and conditions of Twitch, and I'm not going to play at you. Sorry, guys, but that's the way it is. And the reason is that it is now Rocktober, which is a subset of 5090. But as the name suggests, you rock out in October making cover versions. So as you can see, there's quite a few of us been busy making cover versions of everything from Curtis Cantillow's covering 17 by the Sex Pistols. Sapience covered Johnny Be Good. Dazed and Confused, Hello Cody, has been very busy releasing stuff by everything from the Flaming Lips to Yoko Ono. And Wolf did a stonking version of David Bowie's Fashion. I also, and I'll be coming back to this a bit later on, because, where is it? There we go. Curtis covered 316 by Van Halen off the For Uncommon Carnal Knowledge album, and I'll be talking about Eddie a bit later on. But as you can see directly below Curtis, I decided, what is the point of having all of these humongous collection of free Sforzando and whatever else virtual instruments, and the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover, and a couple of other Spitfire audio packages, if I can't pretend to be Hans Zimmer once in a while? So that was what I decided in a moment of madness that I was going to do a couple of days ago. Array of Emotion says, oh, definitely don't play any Led Zeppelin covers. They're notoriously hard on copyright. And this is even after Peter Grant, legendary boss of Led Zeppelin, passed away. His spirit lingers on, and it does not take copyright infringement slightly. Right. Ryako Music says, you went full Hans Zimmer. I really did go full Hans Zimmer. You can go over, and I'll put the URL for the Rocktober Songs page that you're looking at right now, but strangely enough, the URL is 5090.formers.org/Rocktober Songs, and I'm in there. And Mel gave me some really helpful feedback on the first version of what I'd done, which I took very seriously and went back in and got the headphones on and pulled it apart and released another version, which I uploaded to the 5090 site, and then listened to the MP3 version of it playing back over the site and went, oh no, I don't like that. So I remixed it and re-rendered it, and that took 10 minutes. And then uploaded that version to the site and listened to it on the site and thought, oh no, I don't like that version either. By which time it was 1:30 in the morning. And that has been my week. But after about 7 iterations, I finally discovered that all the extra automation that I'd put in using twiddly knobs on the push was actually fighting against automation in the data files to start with. And once I got rid of my extra flourishes, it all sounded a lot better. Ryako Music says, why are you taking me seriously, lol? That's because you're a serious musician, composer, and film scorer who knows what they're on about. And I appreciate your ears because they're in a far better state than mine are. But I really, really got a lot. More than I was excuse me. Oh, excuse me. I just chugged an iced coffee, and I think it's fighting back. I learnt far more than I expected to as a result of really slavishly trying to recreate somebody else's work. And that's led me down a rabbit hole as well, because I've been, as I mentioned on Mel's stream yesterday, I've been on a quest. And that quest has to do with the Rave Emotion says it wants out. It certainly does. Atitlan, good evening. I all presume this is about the Zimmer track. It is indeed. Well, we kind of I'm not going to cover the Zimmer track. Please go and listen to it. I'd appreciate listens to it. It's on the Rocktober site, and marvel at what I managed to create on what I've got without having to buy anything else. I think I got pretty darn close after 7 attempts. So, yeah. But what I was talking about is my next track for Rocktober, and at the moment it's in bits, so I don't think anybody's going to object if I play you what I've put together so far. But it all stems from the fact that we were talking last week about the emulations of the different keyboards in Arturia's V collection, and the keyboard that I was obsessed with from the first time I heard about it, which was probably on the BBC's computer program, was the Fairlight CMI, and CMI stood for Computer Musical Instrument. And if you wanted to buy a Fairlight, my first house cost less than the Fairlights were going for when I bought my house. I could have bought a Fairlight, but then I wouldn't have had my house. That was the choice one had as a musician back in the 80s. So I just got the Junos and the JXs and stuff like that. But times change. And now you can buy an emulation of the Fairlight CMI from those wonderfully nice people at Arturia. And when I found out that the bundle also contained the Synclavier and the ARP 2600 and a Moog modular system and anything like that, I was hooked. So it was like, whoo! But the thing with the Fairlight is that it is such a faithful emulation of the original thing that it will load Fairlight format audio files that one might find on the web. And just as a sort of idle pastime on Tuesday night, to try and decompress from obsessing about the Hans Zimmer track, I thought, I wonder if anybody's got any VC files on the internet that I can just download. And much to my surprise, not only did I find VC files, I actually found Peter Gabriel's VC files, which is why I can now do this. How cool is that? So, yeah, Lay Your Hands on Me from Peter Gabriel 4 is going to be the next track that I recreate. Well, not recreate, because I'm going to go, let's go over to Ableton. I'll show you what I've got so far. Not a lot is the words. Atitlan says, it helps to be someone like Kate Bush to get a Fairlight. Absolutely. Atitlan says, I think the Synclavier is more powerful, but the Fairlight is such a classic. It is, but boy, oh boy, is it niggly. So here's that Fairlight. It's called the Scrape patch. And if I open the Fairlight interface, which you get with the Arturia V collection, you click on the screen and it opens the filter, the sample page. And as you can see, I had to really detune it to get it in pitch, because the original sample, that scrape sample, is way out of tune. So I did a lot of tweaking, and then what else did I do? I've used Ali James does an absolutely stonking VST of the Lindrum, which is called the VPROM for copyright reasons. Atitlan66 says, click the 3D button and you get the classic Fairlight display. Yeah, the other thing, you even get page R, which I think is lovely. So yeah, you click there. Ha ha. I play it. Isn't that lovely? They've actually upped the resolution of the monitor significantly, because the original monitor, I mean, this was back, what, 83? It was a long time ago. And things have changed since then. And people like me are using sort of higher than HD monitors. Ryako Music says, do Sledgehammer, please. That might actually be on the cards for later on in the month, if I haven't just died from just obsessing with stuff. So yeah, Ali, back to the VPROM. Ali James's Lindrum emulation is pretty good, because again, it lets you load banks and programs from the interwebs. So the program I'm using here is not one of the standard Lindrum factory presets. It's one that I found on Ali's site, and I kind of like the sound, because the sound I was after is the classic family and Lay Your Hands on Me drum track, which I literally programmed in by hand because I'm sad. So if I play it, so I'm nearly there. It's. I mean, I've put some transient shaping on. a bit of reverb, and then gated it to get that gated sound. Raja, good evening. Hello, Belinda. Hope you're doing well. So this is very, very early. As you can see, there's very little in it. I'm using the harmonics violins for the opening stuff. So I'm not going to be slavishly following the original. I'm going to use the drums and I'm going to use the Fairlight. But the rest of it, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a full string arrangement here. So I'm using Spitfire Audio's intimate strings. I will be calling on the services of my virtual BBC Symphony Orchestra. Atitlan 66 says, welcome to the 1980s, Noir. It really is 1980s. So I'm using a 1982-ish drum machine whenever the Lin came out. It was the very early 80s. Noir says, we are time traveling today. I am stuck in the 80s. We all know this. All you've got to do is listen to a couple of my songs and you'll realise just how sadly stuck in the 80s I am. And I have a Fairlight and I'm going to use it. So this is the Fairlight computer musical instrument, which at the time cost around £35,000 to buy, which is why at one point there were only about 5 in the country. One was owned by Trevor Horn, one was owned by Thomas Dolby, one was owned by Peter Gabriel, one was owned by Kate Bush, and I'm not sure who the other one was. And Noaja says, but we are travelling without a paradox. Indeed we are. This closed time-like curve is allowed under general relativity. Just so you know. So what I've got so far, I'll play at you, and you kind of, if you've heard the original, you might sort of get where I'm going with this. So you kind of get the idea. One thing I discovered is, although you can do glissandos on a violin, the modulation wheel does not do portamentos on Spitfire Audio. I just realised what I might be able to do, though, if I open up the... Where's it gone? What am I looking at? There we go. I wasn't looking at it because it wasn't there. I'm wondering... No, there isn't. I was kind of hoping there might be a pitch bend on that, but there isn't, because clearly pitch bend on violins would be... Who would have done that? So I'm going to have to figure out that. But that is what has been exercising my attention so far today. And I've been having great fun with it. The Peter Gabriel collection of files that there are is quite an interesting one. So if I open the screen again, I'll play you some of the other ones. Might sound a bit familiar as well. There are, it has to be said, an awful lot of marimbas. In fact, one could say that certain people might have a marimba fixation. And yes, I know you've all noticed it, so let's just get it out of the way and load it so you can laugh. Yes, Peter Gabriel has a Fairlight sample of himself farting. So but what else have we got? We've got the Biko drum sample. We have the Intruder drum sample. What else have we got? We've got, as I say, lots of marimbas. However, the Pet Swan was one I recognised. And can you imagine me with a real one of these? I'd never leave the house. Well, I don't leave the house, but Family in the Fishing Net. Ryako Music says, I love that drum sample. There is so much goodness in that. So I've been delighted with, there's some Ravi Shankar as well. So let's pick one of those. And that sounds very, very familiar. So you get where I'm going with this. There will be lots of very silly Fairlight noises in my work for 5090 over the coming week or two. But before I shut Ableton down, because I kind of haven't really got anything much more that I can play you, I just want to play you the end of my version of Time, because I used the €29 Spitfire Audio Intimate Strings patch, and I think that's what they used on the original, because it is so close, using violin harmonics, which are basically when, like you pluck a harmonic on a guitar, you can do the same thing with a bow on a violin, only it sounds really, really spooky and eerie, and that's why I'm using it at the opening sort of high-pitched noises in Lay Your Hands on Me. And this is taking rather a long time to load because it's an absolutely monster file. Okay, so if I solo the violin, well, I'll just play the end bit and you'll hear the violins. I mean, how close is that? And yes, I did get me Johnny Marr on. I was quite pleased with this bit, although I let the chords ring, so I cheated a bit by recording each chord separately. But I really liked the ringingness of it, so it ended up like this. Really brief snatch with the full thing. Like I say, more than a little bit obsessed with this. It's got Massive X, it's got Pigments, it's got a Jupiter 8, it's got a Mini Moog, it's got me playing a Telecaster, and I even recorded, I was quite pleased with this, I even made my own version of the backwood sample at the end. That's how obsessive I've been over this. As you can tell by the fact that it has, coming in at 38 tracks, a lot more tracks than I normally do on this sort of thing. But yeah, I'm rather it's not, this isn't in the same league as the is it Albion samples you were using, Mel? The dramatic, what's it called? It's another one of these, cinematic percussion, earthquake hits. So it's quite loud. So that's just called Earthquake Hits. Riaka Music says 38. Yeah, lol. Yeah, this from the woman who puts together tracks that have like 90 odd different tracks on it. So imagine this, but 3 times over. I was really pleased though, because I realized that it wasn't my machine just going, as a result of me throwing too much at it. I mean, I'm still running my screensaver as well as streaming on OBS and running this, and it's now playing all 38 tracks without any of them needing to be frozen. So I was pleased with that. That's pretty much it from the music side of things. Do go and visit the Rocktober page. At the moment, you can fit all the cover versions that have been done on a single page. So that's 5090.formers.org/Rocktober songs. And this is all the 5090 crew doing cover versions of songs that they like. And we've kind of picked the year 1980 to cover songs from. So few people have started. So Neil Ayamure has done Jersey Girl by Tom Waits. I need to listen to that. I haven't listened to that yet. There's John Prine, who passed away sadly last month. Captain Beefheart. Brilliant band. Did you know? Here we are. Here's a squirrel for you. Over in the corner there, right there, is my Moog Etherwave. Yes, I have a theremin. And the reason I have a theremin is because as a very small boy, I saw The Day the Earth Stood Still. Wonderful score by the composer Bernard Herrmann. And Bernard Herrmann was kind of the predecessor to Hans Zimmer, because a lot of the orchestration that he used was frowned upon. People go, you don't need 73 trombone players. But Herrmann basically put together a very, very odd orchestra for the scoring sessions for The Day the Earth Stood Still. Atitlan says Wolf Keel at Fame. Oh, he's done Fame now as well, has he? Oh, I will go back and look at that, but I'm getting distracted. Yeah, Bernard Herrmann did a scoring session for The Day the Earth Stood Still, and you can actually find outtakes from the scoring session on the internet. And the scoring session featured Hollywood's only theremin player, who was, and I've talked about him on this channel before. I don't know if you remember back in the summer, talked about Dr. Samuel Hoffman, who was a podiatrist, but he'd been in big bands in New York, moved to LA in the 50s, signed up with the Musicians Union, put down that he was a theremin player. So when Miklas Rocha and then Bernard Herrmann thought, "Oh, I need a theremin," they looked him up in the phone book and he was the only one. So it's his playing that you hear on The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Psycho, and Rocha's Lost Weekend, which was the first film to be released that featured the theremin as a signifier for derangement and mental instability. What triggered this squirrel? You are probably sitting there asking yourself, well, in his later years, Dr. Hoffman ended up playing on Captain Beefheart's albums. So check out Safe as Milk and you will find not Dr. Samuel Hoffman, but just plain Sam Hoffman in the session credits on Safe as Milk. So there you go. But it was his playing, and he had one of the proper old, massive RCA wooden cabinet jobs. Absolutely gorgeous, but those things are priceless these days. So I've just got the Moog Etherwave. And my friend Norman said that in the early days when they started originally selling the Moog Etherwave, that if you open the box up, Bob Moog would have actually personally signed every single one. But sadly, not mine, because mine's a fairly new one. So, oh, that Itland says, sorry, it is fashion. It's a really good cover version. There's enough of it being fashion, but it's also enough of it being Wolf, because Wolf is one of those formers and 5090s who has a very, very distinctive voice. And you will not go, oh, I wonder who this is. You will always go, oh, that's Wolf. And that is a thing to have as a musician. There are very, very few musicians who you just listen to and go, oh, I know who that is. And sadly, we lost one of those musicians this week. Eddie Van Halen passed away a couple of days ago to cancer, which he has been fighting off and on for the best part of at least 15 years. And it could really be probably closer to 25 years. And I first heard Van Halen when some friends of mine back in 1978, when I lived in West Wickham in London, they went and saw Black Country heavy metal pioneers Black Sabbath at the Lewisham Odeon on a tour. I think, if I'm guessing, it was probably the tour for Never Say Die, and the Never Say Die logo. That's Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. wears a Black Sabbath Never Say Die T-shirt in the Iron Man movies. I think that was the one of the albums that first led to Ozzy's falling out with the rest of the band, although Technical Ecstasy was the next album, I think. Or was it the album before? I can never get the two. They're sort of jumbled up in my memory, but it was 42 years ago. But anyway, Black Sabbath toured the UK to promote their album, got absolutely blown off stage by this young whippersnapper band from Los Angeles called Van Halen. And I was interested in guitar. I hadn't actually saved up enough money to afford an electric guitar back then. That's kind of the reason why I'm so obsessed with the things now, is because it's compensating for having to sit through my entire childhood watching all my mates get electric guitars and synthesizers and things like that, and I was just meh. Got an old acoustic. My guitar playing friends went, "You have to listen to this," and it was Van Halen 1, and it was like, oh yeah, not a bad first track, and then the second track on Van Halen 1 started playing, and it was Eruption, and it was like, okay, play that again. I have no idea what's going on there, but how is he doing that? And for about the next decade, every time a new Van Halen album came out, there would be something on it where we would all go, how is he doing that? It was an astonishing flowering of talent. The French Doge, good evening to you, sir. Hello, hi. Yeah, we're just talking about Eddie Van Halen. And I love the fact as well that he just didn't give a shit about the Guitar Hero thing at all. He said, I think at one point when it was Diver Down, I think, was the first album where they started playing with the synths. And then 1984, obviously, you had Jump and stuff on that. And the rest of the band, I don't think, really wanted him to do the synth playing. And I remember there was an interview at the time, he said something along the lines of, I am going to do exactly what I want, and I'm going to play exactly what I want, and I don't care if it's a banjo or a Bavarian cheese whistle, whatever that is. And I loved that attitude. And it got to the point on the later albums where it's like, is that guitar or is that synth or is that something else? You just could not tell. He pushed the boundaries of what a guitar player or a keyboard player could do in a band. He blurred the two together. And apart from anything else, he was an amazing songwriter. And that's the thing that I think kind of gets overlooked because of all the widdly stuff on Eruption. He didn't do that all the time. And so many of the musicians who tried to emulate him, who followed him, who obsessively studied his technique and then tried to replicate it, they didn't get the fact that Eddie would just do a solo and then there'd just be some nice playing, but it was all in the service of the song, not look at me doing all this clever, fancy, technical, amazing, brilliant stuff, because that was not gonna work for the song. And Riaka Music says, which is brilliant. And he was brilliant at what he did. Not apparently the easiest of people to get on with. Although if you're in a band with David Lee Roth, I guess you're going to have interesting perspectives on interpersonal skills. But yeah, his passing is an astonishing loss. Really, really sad to hear. And dear God, he was only 5 years older than I am. That really brought me up. It's like, shit. Because that then meant that back in 1978, when they took the world by storm, he'd only have been like 22 or 23. What? So, Eddie Van Halen, rest in power. And I can't raise a glass to you because I'm not drinking tonight, but I've got me lemon juice. So cheers, Eddie. Oh. So before we carry on, bit of housekeeping. If you're watching this on Twitch and you haven't already, then please follow me. If you're watching this as the edited down version, which will have all those nasty pauses and me staring into space and going, so, which I do regularly, edited out, which is why last Thursday's show, when I was rather drunk, ended up being more than 20 minutes shorter by the time I'd put it on YouTube. And it still came in at over 3 hours long. What was I thinking? Well, one of the things was that was a rather darn good bottle of red wine. Riako Music says, I'm exhausted and I spilled a bunch of coffee everywhere. I had similar experiences a few days ago and kicked that thing over and poured about half a pint of orange juice all over the floor in here. But I'm sorry to hear that, Mel. So I mourn for your coffee. One should never spill coffee. But I think we're all just a bit bleh at the moment. I was going to take just a day off and just veg out, and ended up doing another minor tweak to that Hans Zimmer track. So that's like the 8th time I've remixed it, and creating the family and I keep on saying it's Family and the Fishing Net. It's not. It's Lay Your Hands on Me. And Mel says, I need to rest. You do. You've been pushing yourself very, very, very hard. And as I say that, Riako Music says, I'm pushing myself too hard too. You are. Be sensible. Just chill for a bit. Veg out. Go and play with the cats. Go and mock Mr. Pickles' choice of bed arrangements. So, Guppy Wigbert, Jules, good evening. How is Paris? I've been seeing your pictures. Wow. Oh, to live in Paris. I love that place. I really do. I hope you're well. I hope you're practicing social distancing. I hope your party was excellent. I hope you got very, very drunk as well. Yeah, last week's show was a bit all over the place. This week's show, I'm kind of gonna just keep it fairly short and sweet. I've more or less run out of musical updates, but I have one musical update that you remember, I'm not going to play you the track again because I've already played you the track, 3 times now? So you won't have to suffer through Dodgy Geezer again. But I was not going to let my drawing a blank of finding a certain quote by George Cole as Arthur Daly. Oh no, I was going to track down that quote come hell or high water. And guess what?
Great, isn't it? We're on again next month.
Forget that.
Forget it. The world is your lobster, my son. You've got a new career. People's champion.
From the episode Rocky 8.5, where Arthur Daly talks Terry into resurrecting his boxing career and getting beaten to a pulp, but finally, of course, because it's Rocky 8.5, managing to win the day, and Arthur, of course, making lots of money. Riako Music says, the world is your lobster. Yeah, do you want to hear that again? I'll turn it up a bit, because I can do. I'll play it you again, because it is just brilliant. No, and apparently George Cole said he heard one of his children actually say this straight-faced, and thought Arthur is the sort of person who would say that. So here it is again.
Great, isn't it? We're on again next month.
Forget that.
Forget it. The world is your lobster, my son. You've got a new career. People's champion.
Despite the fact I've lived in the West Country for 25 years now, 25 and a half years I've lived down here now, I still get accused of sounding like David Bowie when I sing on 5090 or Form, because I grew up as in my late teenage years and in my early 20s in Bromley, Beckenham, all round there. Riako Music says, I thought he said lobster. I catch myself saying in it sometimes. Raja says, you do sound posh. Oh, I really don't. I am still waiting for my first call as voiceover artist, I have to say. But Wobby, bless her, tweeted Jim about Sunday night show, and the analytics for Sunday night show have pushed it to #1 this week on YouTube. So thank you if you watch the show on YouTube. That's much appreciated. My analytics on YouTube this week are looking pretty good, although maybe it was people tuning in just to see me drunk. Who knows? Raja says, I always thought you had a Bowie-esque sound. Yeah, I can actually turn it on. And why don't I do that? I will play you a piece of music, and this is one that I haven't played for a bit. Riako Music says, I agree with Belinda. Do a cover of Starman. There are a few tracks that I would really, really like to cover of Bowie's, and strangely enough, a lot of it is the later stuff. I'm absolutely obsessed with Loving the Alien, which was sniffed at when it came out, but I think Loving the Alien is one of the best things that he's ever done, because there are all sorts of little callbacks to his early silly days of Laughing Gnome and things like that. And I just love the fact that he'll just go, uh-oh, at the end of a verse for no reason whatsoever. So Loving the Alien is one that I want to cover. And we'll talk about Bowie another night. But this is a track that I wrote for my birthday, which was called 6 Decades. And I've played this on the stream before, but as we're talking about accents, this is me absolutely laying on the Bromley accent with a trowel. This is 6 Decades. Sorry, folks, there is something screwy going on with Ableton, and I'm not sure what it is. So there should have been drums on that. So if I solo the drums, where are you? There's nothing there. I do not understand what's going on here. All right, rather than doing it there, I'm going to shut that down. That will be a mystery for me to solve at some other point. So instead, I will take this opportunity to promote my Bandcamp page, which, as you can see, currently features the track 6 Decades by me. And this is what it should sound like. If you could do So, ladies and gentlemen, that was it wasn't Laughing, no. That was 6 Decades by Chris Harris, now available for purchase at headfirstonly.bandcamp.com. And, in fact, you can also buy my complete digital discography there for a mere £39.65 Great British pounds, or more if you wish. So that's a saving of 35% off individual pricing. What an offer, eh? By Grabthar's Hammer, what a savings. Yeah, I think I've sussed the problem. So you want to know what it was? Watch me as I fix it and magically add the drums, which have not been lost. Worry not, Jules. They are not lost at all. What it is, and it's something that I do talk about on the show, usually because nerd. So I always talk about what's had a software update this week. And literally, again, this is 2 weeks on the row, OBS updated itself 10 minutes before I went live this evening. It's a hotfix, so OBS is now at version 26.0.2. Couple of minor tweaks to it. Ableton is now suddenly at 10.1.25. So it went from .18 to .25 in a week. There are a number of bug fixes in that are to do with things like VST3s, and I love Ali James's vProm, but I can't run it in its VST3 form because if I put it into Ableton goes and literally falls over. So, but the issue here, and if I go, because it's now loaded, so I'm no longer stalling, the issue here is Superior Drummer. Because back in August, Superior Drummer was at version 3.1.7, but it's now at 3.2.2. So what I have to do, and I can't figure out what drum kit it was, can I? Toontrack, it would be really useful if rather than bitching about the version of Superior Drummer that I need to have, that I could actually find out the details of the kit and the settings that I had in the old version that I now no longer can get access to, because instead I'm just going to have to hit delete, get rid of that version of Superior Drummer, drop this version of Superior Drummer in, which is now a version and a half bigger. And it was a fairly tight, I think it might have been, I'm going to go with 77. I don't have to do anything with grooves because the MIDI information there is already there. So now if I click play, it should work perfectly. I am too cool for school. That's what it was. And relax. So that was basically me getting old angsty about the fact that I'm just going to save this so that I don't go through that process. So this kind of basically means that, what was that? That was the 21st track that I did for 5090 this summer. So if I want to go back and remix the previous 20 songs, I will need to completely redo the drum tracks on each of them and remember what drum track or what drum kit I actually used in each case. So don't think I'll be remixing those early tracks. There's a few in there that are not too bad. I may just have to obsessively listen to each WAV file to determine which drum kit I actually used. Riaka Music says, lol, Alan Rickman was perfect. Riaka Music, there it goes. Yes, we are back in business, kids. Riaka Music says, hey, when are you getting... Oh, damn. That was one thing I was going to do today. I was going to ring up the guy who's making my new studio desk, and I forgot. So I shall do that in the morning. So at the moment, Mel, I do not know when I'm getting my desk, but I'm hoping it will be fairly soon. If it is, then this show and the Sunday show will probably go on hiatus because I'm going to have to take everything out of this room pretty much to put the desk in. And I need to get rid of the bed. And that will be going on free cycle. So, yeah, it's going to be major upheavals. I may stream from downstairs and just draw instead, because if it does arrive this month, then I can do a sort of token few sketches for Inktober, but I haven't done any so far. Ray of Emotion says, how could you forget? I got very little sleep last night, and what sleep I did was not of particularly good quality, and I actually resorted to going and having a nap this afternoon. That's the state I've been in today. But despite that, despite being a bit knackered all week, despite being to a certain extent burnt out from doing 5090, I did the Hans Zimmer cover version. I've made a start on the Peter Gabriel cover version. And Riaka Music says, I'm harassing the Harris, as is your role in this show, I think. And it's much appreciated, because otherwise I'll just forget, as I did forget. Yeah, so 2 cover versions, did yet another remix of Dodgy Geezer to put the proper Arthur Daly, the world's your lobster, my son, quote in it. And I have written the theme tune and recorded the theme tune for Sunday's show, which will be the successor to the 5090 show. So all I need to do now, he said, all I need to do now is just finish doing the opening titles for the song, which I've made a start at, but I'm going to need to do some filming. So I'll probably do that tomorrow and Saturday, which then just leaves me with Sunday to edit the final show, dropping it into OBS, ready to go for my Sunday night live stream on this channel. Same bat time, same bat channel. No, it's 2100 BST on twitch.tv/headfirstonly on Sunday night. And it will be a successor to the 5090 show. So I'm not going to tell you what the song sounds like. Not going to play you the song. Not going to play you the opening titles. Tune in on Sunday. Find out whether I actually managed to do what I'm planning on doing or not. But I will be running a new show with a new title and a new theme tune and new opening credits, all shiny, for the follower to the 5090 show. And I will even be starting a new playlist on YouTube. So current 5090 show playlist has all 14 of the existing shows. You can watch them one after another. That would probably take you over a day. If anybody ever does that, I will be extraordinarily surprised. But my viewing stats, as I said earlier, my viewing analytics this week are brilliant. So thank you very much for watching, if you've watched any of them. If you haven't, please go and watch them and boost my analytics even further. I don't get analytics. I really don't. It's completely beyond my control what stuff of mine takes off. I can write something on Twitter that is really, 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 in my opinion, cool and arty and inventive, and it it might get a like. I retweeted something else from somebody else about the condition that the American president is in. And I observed the fact that it was probably the most plausible and believable hot take that I'd read this week about the state of Mr. Trump. And then I just added the comment, just on the spur of the moment. Well, obviously, it's the most believable. It's from a cat. And my phone kept on buzzing while I was watching a film. I thought, I'll watch it afterwards. And when I picked up my phone after the film had finished, Twitter had gone nuts because cats. So, Mel, you may need to lease me Mr. Pickles for a while, because clearly that's what, it's cats that get viewers, and it's cats that get click-through engagement, and it's cats that get likes, and it's cats that get subscribers. It's just bizarre. All caps, Riako Music, get a cat. So there is a branch of the Cats Protection League up the road from me, but yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Riaka Music says, Mr. Pickles is crazy. The Fresh Dose says, cats, dogs, or lewd thumbnails / pics equals boost in analytics. Talking of lewd thumbnails, I don't know what I've done or why I'm apparently a target, but I keep on getting messages on Instagram from rather well-endowed young ladies who like 20 or 30 of my pictures and then want to send me a message. But the request to send me a message usually has a spelling mistake in it. And I'm usually of the opinion that they're not actually messages from the aforementioned busty young ladies, but are probably from some old sweaty 419 scammer sitting in his underpants and a vest somewhere in a favela, trying to talk me out of money. Yeah, the French Doge is well ahead of me. Ah, the scammers, he said. Guppy Wigber says, actually, I have the same thing. I don't know how they even think I'm their public. I mean, likewise, but apparently, yes, I am a thing. What is it? Duckface, I just do not get duckface. Why? It just makes you look an idiot. But I'm an old guy, so what do I know? What do I know? I am in nobody's demographic. Seriously? Me? So, Noaja says, creepy ass. I delete them so fast, it was done in the past. Yeah, same, says Noaja. Riaka Music says, I delete those as soon as possible. Rev Emotion says, if you want to hear something really funny, I get ads for Brits living in Belgium telling me to sort out my residency before Brexit. I just wish I could wake up one morning and I'd jump stubs, to use an expression from our patron and friend, Mr. William Gibson, whose last 2 books have been based around the concept of alternative timelines where things happened a little bit differently than they did here. And Agency, the last timeline, or the last book that Bill brought out, that many of us met in London in February in what seems like a completely different world. Agency, without trying to spoil too much of the plot, involves an alternative timeline where Trump lost and the Brexit vote went the other way. And you know what? I really, 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 really would rather like to wake up one day and discover that I'm in that stub, because this one sucks right now. We lost Eddie Van Halen this week. Yeah. Shall we talk about music instead? I think we should. I think I would just get monumentally depressed and then go downstairs and open a bottle of wine. And I'm I do not do that during the week. Absolutely not. You saw what happened last week when I did. Show went on for 3.5 hours. And you guys, or at least some of you guys, have got work in the morning and homework. So at the moment, what are we doing at the moment? So it's coming up on 90 minutes. I'll probably stick with you to the top of the hour if that's okay. And then I will let you guys get on and do the stuff that you have to do. Apart from the French Doge's allergies and Mel pouring coffee all over the floor and just generally being knackered, how the devil are you guys? How are you keeping? It is really nice that I've got to the point with this stream now that I can come online and I know I'll have somebody to chat to, and goodness me, that makes a difference in terms of doing this. And it also makes me raise me game a bit, because if I was just doing this on my own, I would just be muttering into the microphone while I was obsessively trying different synth patches out in Ableton for a track that I would now, because 5090 is finished, just be doing for the hell of it. But with you guys around, and now, of course, with saying that, the chat has pretty... Oh, no, Belinda says, good, other than the obvious, thank you. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Array of Emotion says, well, we bought some salsa in a jar this evening, and we can't get the jar open. Because I used to have, when I was doing Tai Chi regularly, and because I'm a guitarist, I have a pretty good grip, so I don't have much trouble with opening jars and bottles and screw tops and things like that. Array of Emotion says, so that's happening. You can buy these things. It's a plastic handle with a rubber strap, and the rubber strap basically loops round the jar top. Let me see if I can find a picture of one online. The rubber strap loops round the jar top and then slots into a groove in the plastic handle. And my mum, bless her, bought one because she was struggling with opening jam jars. So the rubber strap is anchored into that part, and it literally goes around the jam jar lid, then slots back into the handle, and then because you angle it so that you're turning and compressing the joint in the handle, then that makes it really easy to open jam jars. So top tip. And completely unnecessary because, as Ryako Music says in the chat, I got it open in all caps, and then some quite colourful and celebratory language as a result. So well done, Mel. That's really good. Excellent. Yeah, so let me just check my notes. So I don't know if you saw on Facebook, I have been a naughty boy because Alex, who is a lovely chap who lives in Manitoba, has been doing 5090 and writing songs about each element in the periodic table. And last week, Alex got to the element ruthenium, which I know the name, but Alex's song was actually really, really informative and really, really interesting. And this is where it all went horribly wrong. He happened to mention in his song that ruthenium is an alternative to iridium in coating fountain pen nibs. So, of course, me being me, said, well, I need one. I found one. And that is it. It is a Lamy ruthenium nib and aluminium body anodized in ruthenium that I got from cultpens.co.uk this week. And it writes a treat. It's really, really, really nice. However, I also got that. Isn't that amazing? I first saw this pen, and it's a manuscript pen, and it's a series that they did with completely over-the-top barrels. There's a blue and yellow version of that, which is called Northern Lights, but that's called Red Lava. And I first saw that pen about 4 or 5 years ago. Noaja says, "Want?" Yeah, you and me. As soon as I saw it, that was my reaction, Belinda. With ordering the ruthenium pen this week from cultpens.co.uk, who are lovely. And not only did the pens arrive with a complimentary packet of Haribo in it, also got a packet of love hearts as well. Thank you, cultpens.co.uk. You guys are the best. I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do something to commemorate this. I can't just use black ink in it. So I went and had a look on Cult Pen's selection of diamine inks, which I've mentioned many times before because, for instance, this pen is currently full of Diamine's Desert Burst brown ink, which is one of 5 colours that Diamine created that are based on the paint finishes of Gibson Les Paul guitars. So, I mean, of course I'm going to have all 5. So I thought with that, I need something. No, I was saying I'm making grabby hands at the screen. Wait till you get a load of this, mate. Purple ink. Ryako Music says, "Get Belinda away from dat pen crack." Now, you're probably asking at this point, who the hell is Monboddo and why have they got a hat? And it turns out that Monboddo, first name Scribble, runs a website which is called Too Many Purples, which is literally a chronicle of Scribble Monboddo's quest for the perfect purple ink. And Diamine, obviously taken with Monboddo's unceasing quest and dedication to their goal, actually developed 2 inks, not 1, but 2 inks, purple inks for them. And Monboddo's hat is based on Monboddo's top hat. So there you go. So that was Monboddo's hat. And you may or may not be able to see, but this week's show notes for the Twitch live stream are written with me ruthenium anodized fountain pen in Monboddo's ink. So rather splendid, I thought. Noaja says, "I would take that nasally like cocaine." Good Lord, girl, that's... Oh, I don't even know where to begin with that. But the Molten Lava pen actually won an award for the station from the Stationers Company, and it was their award for excellence, which it won. Here you go. There you go. So rather look at that nib. So look at that Red Storm. Oh, that's nice, I hear you thinking, but oh no, that's not the one. That's not the other one that I am coveting. The other one I am coveting. Look at that one. I mean, there's not a lot in it. I mean, the Molten Lava one, it was a bit of a no-brainer, but that Northern Lights one is a pretty darn close second. Ryako Music says, "They look like candy. I want candy." I have, as you well know, a rather bad fountain pen habit, not at the high-end stuff. And I mean, dear goodness me, if you want to go high-end fountain pens, there are some insane fountain pens. I saw one in the customs shop, duty-free shop at Heathrow a couple of years ago, and it was like, that is grotesque. And it was commemorating the Mad King Ludwig. And Ryako Music says, how expensive do fountain pens get? How expensive do you want them to get? So that one, and it's just a fairly basic sterling silver Graf von Faber-Castell fountain pen, 775 quid. There are quite a few on this site that are in 4 figures. I kid you not. Raja says, very too obscene. Yeah, let me just try and find this, because I'm sure it will be. Oh, that's the Rudyard Kipling one. That's actually quite refined. The French Doge says, holy moly. Yes, that's the one. Are we? If I view image. Tasteful, eh? Array of Emotions just says, The French Doge says, holy moly. So Atitlan says, proof that money can't buy you taste. Absolutely. I mean, if you were going to spend nearly 7.5 grand on something, would you spend it on that? Although, Mel, I don't know if you've noticed, but the clip is a swan, isn't it? It's a swan's beak. That is just astonishingly tasteless. I'm sorry, but there is no other word for it. It is just really, really not my thing. Just, Ryako Musa says, it is a nice swan detail. De Freshdo says, so many details. This is, I mean, I'll stick with Molten Lava. I think that for me, I mean, it wasn't a cheap pen, but that's about as expensive as I'm prepared to go for buying something that I'm just gonna keep in my pocket and will probably drop once or twice. I just wouldn't. I can't. My brain is refusing to process the concept of me owning something like that. Seriously, my brain is just going, no. You're not having one of those. Not in 1,000 years. Ryako Music says, but if someone gave you one of those as a present, would you say no? I think if I had friends who were in a position to drop 7.5 grand buying me a pen as a present, then I think I would probably be in a very, very, very different headspace to where I am now. So who knows? But I think that's probably pretty unlikely. And to be honest, 7.5 grand, that could get me a good 10 decent Fender Strats. And pen, Fender Strat, 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 Fender Strat. It's a bit of a no-brainer, really, isn't it? So, Atitlan says, I guess the pens get like watches. There's a point where you can't improve the functionality, so you just get more and more extreme on the design to distinguish your product. Yeah, Ryako Music says, yep, just add diamonds. Yeah, De Fresto says, I'd rather have an 8-string guitar than a 7K pen, and I don't even play guitar. Yeah, me too. Well, actually, I have this. None more black. So this ain't an 8-string guitar. This is a 9-string guitar, and I use this a lot. This, and I can actually feel my elbow going, ow, now, just from holding it, because it's bloody heavy. The neck is like a cricket bat. And I think this is the guitar that did my elbow in back in August, because, yeah, I'm going to put it down. It's very heavy, and as Array of Emotion says, gent. It is, and that's why I bought it. I thought, oh, I rather like this genre. I might try my hand at gent. So I went into the guitar shop in the centre of Bristol and basically spent an afternoon being a real pain, just going, can I try that? Can I try that? Can I try that one? Tried a whole bunch of 7 strings, few 8s, and the 8-string equivalent of that was really nice. But then I saw the 9-string. I was like, let's try this. The difference. I mean, the 9 is, the top string is a bit floppy, but I mean, it's C sharp going low to high. It's C sharp, F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, B, E. So it goes down lower than a bass guitar on the low end. And then you've got a full normal 6-string on the top 6 strings. So I can play the guitar part, and then without putting the guitar down, I can just change the effect settings and play the bass part as well. It's brilliant. And sadly, one of my friends who passed away in the first wave of COVID-19 earlier on in the year, a lovely Motown bass player called Basie Saunders, Skyped me once, and we were chatting, and I happened to be in here, so I just answered the call in here, and I got the 9-string on. And Basie used to play, well, I mean, he had custom Phil Jones cabinets that are the maddest bass cabinets you have ever seen. They were 24 by 5 speakers in them, and they're the little Phil Jones. I've got a briefcase Ultimate Phil Jones amp down here. The speakers in that are insane. They've got Kevlar cones, so it's got punch. So goodness knows what 24 of them in a cab 6 feet high would have sounded like. And Basie had 2 of them. But yeah, I answered the Skype call, and I got the 9-string round my neck because I was doing something, and Basie just went, "What is that?" So it was instant. I want one. Which lovely. I miss the guy. I really wish he was still around. But Array of Emotion says 9-string is gent squared. Both of the guys in Meshuggah have them. Because I don't think they make that anymore. They make one a bit like it, but they don't make that exact model anymore. And both of the guys the original guys in Meshuggah, because Scar Symmetry's Per Nielsen's in the band now, which is really irritating because Per was supposed to be working on the next Scar Symmetry album, and I really, really want to hear it. And he's been doing Meshuggah for the last 3 years and having a baby, so I guess he's got other things rather than focusing on Scar Symmetry. But it's annoying. I want to hear what the Singularity Part 2 is going to be about. So, yeah, anyway. De Fresh Dose says, guitar is something I want to learn so bad. Array of Emotion says, I thought they were playing 8 strings. Most of the gent guys do 8 strings. I think the 9s were kind of more Ibanez going, have one of these so we can take photographs of you and go, look, the guys from Meshuggah play these. But yeah, live they play 8 strings, I think. Pretty sure, I can't remember. Anyway. Besides the point. The point is that, what is the point? I've completely squirreled myself, and I can't even remember where I started off. Taste. I'd rather have 10 Strats than one of those fountain pens. So if any of you ever win the lottery and contemplate buying me one of those Mad King Ludwig fountain pens, please just drop hints about if you were buying another guitar, what would you get instead? A Ray of Emotion says, I wonder when Frederick will be back. Yeah, don't know is the simple answer. Yeah, I don't know. So we'll have to see. But Per is still very busy by the looks of it. And hopefully I will get the Scar Symmetry album before too much longer. We'll just have to see. So after saying that I was going to go till the top of the hour, it's now gone 15:15. So Riako Music says, the pain. Yeah, and Belinda says, there are limits. If I drop cash on a pen these days, it is for art pens, not pretty looking pens. To be honest, this little chappy, the Rotring art pen, I think it cost me 17 quid. It's got a chisel. I think it's a 1.8 italic, 1.5 or 1.8 italic nib. Writes beautifully. And I use this for all my lyric writing. So you were saying brown ink? Yeah, but it's Gibson Les Paul Sunburst brown ink. So all these, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there you go. So it's not a bad colour. Not a bad colour at all. I think that would have been Desert Burst. That's with frantic crossing out, because that's Cherry Burst. So it's a lot sort of reddery, orangey. And then I think I've also got some stuff in here. Yeah, that's the one I really like, is the Tobacco Sunburst one. So that's my mastering notes for the last album of listening through. So yeah, I like mixing it up. That's the level of my life these days. Mixing it up by changing the inks that I use for writing lyrics. Riako Music says, my notes are much messier. Occasionally, it does happen. There are some lyrics in that. This chair is really beginning to irritate me. Sorry if it's creaking. It's not me creaking. It is the chair, honestly. There aren't many songs in that book, but there are some songs in my notebook where there are no crossings out in the lyrics at all, which is weird, I know, but that's how I roll. And that's when it's usually the songs that I look at afterwards or listen to afterwards and think, yes, that's pretty good. And it's back to what we were saying with Januarius on Sunday, or was it even last Thursday, about how sometimes you've just got to step sideways and let your unconscious get on with it. And the amount of crossing out on those songs is usually an indicator of my unwillingness or to let my unconscious get on with it, or conversely, just the fact that my unconscious couldn't be asked. So Guppy Wigber says, come to Paris. Oh, I would love to come to Paris. We have some amazing art shops here. Riako Music speaks for all of us, saying we all want to go to Paris, Guppy Wigber. We certainly do. Oh, that's unfair. Many fountain pens. So, oh dear. Guppy Wigber says, you know Bill personally, right? Invite him. You know all Wigbers will follow. Rajai says, true, very true. Guppy Wigber says, damn, autocorrect. Riako Music says, Bill isn't going to risk getting sick. He's in a vulnerable age group. De Fresh Dose says, I don't want to go to Paris. You're in that neck of the woods anyway, though, aren't you, mate? With a name like De French Doge, I'm guessing it's probably a little bit more accessible to you than it is to poor sods like me stuck here in the West Country. And it's only going to get harder after this Brexit. Oh, no, not going to go there. Not going to go there. I am just going to say at this point that I'm pretty much done for today. So I will wish you a good night. Oh, Guppy Weber says, yeah, I get it. I wouldn't come here yet. It's getting quite bad here, COVID-wise. I reckon over here, certainly in the north of England, it will be 2 weeks tops before they put a lot of places back into lockdown. Funnily enough, it's not the rich places that get locked down. And the Guardian newspaper this week published a report that said that poor and deprived areas of the country were 4 times more likely to have lockdown restrictions imposed upon them than non-poor and deprived areas. Affluent areas, apparently, it's fine. So, yeah, that's the world we live in. Noir says, night all, stay safe, and I will echo that, and I will sign off for everybody. The French Doe says Bordeaux is getting bad as well. Oh, dear. Wear a damn mask. Whatever you're doing, if you're going outside, if you're in a building, or even if you're outdoors, wear a damn mask and look after yourselves. Stay sane, stay well, stay safe, and I will see you all on Sunday with, hopefully, if I get them finished and edited, shot and everything else, a brand new set of opening credits and a new show. So I'll see you at 9 p.m. BST on Sunday. Till then, have a good one. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and I'll see you then. Cheers.